Welcome to HR Voices, real talk with people leaders who are in it every day. We get into the messy stuff, the challenges that keep them up at night, and how they're actually fixing them. No corporate fluff, just smart conversations for people who care about people. HR Voices is brought to you by All Voices, the platform that cuts hours of manual HR work with step-by-step workflows and AI to assist with investigations, performance improvement, accommodations, leave requests, and more, so you can get back to the human side of HR. Hello, and welcome to HR Voices. I'm your host, Emily Finnick, and today I get to chat with Jess Smith, who is the Chief People Officer Americas at Hays. Welcome, Jess.
Thanks, Emily.
So Jess, you have a really awesome background. You have led people strategy and DEI programs at big tech. And when I say big tech, I mean big tech, AWS, Amazon, and Meta, huge. And now you're leading people at Hays, which is one of the largest recruitment firms in the world. And so I'd just love to hear more about your background and how some of that big tech experience is helping you shape talent strategy for companies all across the US.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the short version of it, Emily, would be agility. Like that's probably the one that I use the most frequently. So to kind of start, I started my career in finance, and then have transitioned into HR. And so I call myself a human capital strategist because I'm all focused on like how do we thinking about getting our best return for our for our employees, but then also how can we ensure that our employees have the best experience that we can. And so coming out of tech, the things that you learn quickly are about being agile and the ability to pivot quickly when needed. You learn a lot about building and coming into this industry, we've done a lot of transforming. And so those are really similar types of skill sets. And so kind of putting those to use. And then finally, how to motivate people, right, to do their best work. And so those are really the three things that have really helped me to dive into this role in Hayes and as I lead the people function for the Americas.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about Hayes, like about just the size, the employees that work there, how you're distributed? I'd love to sort of get some context on the people that you're leading as people officer.
Yeah, of course. So Hayes is, like you mentioned, a global organization. So we have offices in 23 different countries around the world. We have a little over 10,000 employees at this point, and we're definitely one of the biggest staffers, if not the biggest, in Europe. Our biggest markets are in Germany and in the UK. Australia as well is a really big market for us, and in the Americas is a market right where we're investing a lot and growing. And so it's an organization where across the Americas, we're in four countries. So we're in the US, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. And we do everything from one placement, right? So I have someone that you need to replace placed at one organization all the way to workforce staffing solutions where we can get into RPOs, our MSPs, and even, take over, become a talent acquisition team, extended part of a talent acquisition team as well.
It's awesome. So when you think of the people working at Hayes and we think about it's been a year of a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty, especially in the recruitment space, right? So what would you say has been, when you think about your people working at Hayes, what do you think has been sort of the challenge that's top of mind for you, for them?
Yeah, definitely ability to deal with change, right? So as you mentioned, we're in recruitment. That industry is still changing. And then when you think about AI, you listen to what's happening with AI, and a lot of the early work, right, in AI and HR starts with talent acquisition and recruiting. And so it's definitely a space where we've seen a lot of change. I would expect that change to continue. So transformation has really been a key word for us. And how do we essentially create the haze of the future? And so to do that, we need to think differently. We need to think differently about how we're organized. We need to think differently about what tools we use to be successful and to get efficiencies. And so definitely top of mind has been how do we help the employee who, many times our colleagues are thinking, okay, well that change is over. Now finally it's quote unquote stability. But of course what we know and definitely what you learn in tech is that, or you're in a change or about to go into one or you just finished.
Yeah, yeah.
So there will be constant change. And so how do we help our colleagues ensure that they're prepared for that change and they're flexible, is definitely top of mind.
So a lot of that's mindset then, right? Because we can't control the environment as much as we
No,
think we can, right? None of us can really
right,
control the velocity that it's coming at us. We
right.
can't control that, right? So can you give us maybe a look inside how you're navigating that? Knowing that your people are getting hit with high velocity of change at all times, how are you supporting them and prepping them and helping them with their mindset?
Yeah, so a really big thing for us this year, Emily, has been all about accountability and ownership. And so that can kind of sound like, oh, but that's for the business, but really it's for the person too, right? Because when you feel like you have ownership, you can own something, you are accountable to what it is you said you would do, you feel like you're motivated that you can own the outcome. And you being able to own the outcome means that you will, no matter what it is, get to the end of it, right? And be able to take the next step or tackle that challenge. And so we spent a lot of time this year talking about ownership, and this theory from culture partners around just above the line, below the line thinking. Because sometimes to a change, it can create negativity, right? I mean, a lot of people don't like change. I saw a statistic the other day that said 30% of the people can deal with ambiguity. That means 70% of the people cannot, right? So that means that change uncertainty would be unsettling. And so when you feel like, we always look for the thing, what can we do, own? When you feel like you can own something, that brings at least some stability to the things that you're doing that you can control.
hmm So has it been sort of, to give an example, is it just helping managers define that for their employees, right? Here are things that we can control. Let's focus on them.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it's that. A lot of it too is that coaching. So for example, if someone comes to you and they say, well, because a lot of times too with change, you can have finger pointing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, oh well, this team did this, right? And then you as the manager coaching on, okay, well, what about that? Did you want to go differently? And then what could you have done to make it go in a different way? Right. And now what can you do next? And so really it's about coaching that colleague back to a positive state, but also and when they figure out what can they do and control to take the next step.
Yes. That's great. I want to go back to challenges. We've talked about the challenges of what the people specifically are facing, a lot of change management. What about yourself and your people team, right? Like what is the biggest challenge facing HR leaders, people leaders in this moment?
Yeah, really it's two things I would say. First is for me, and I speak a lot about this in conferences, the other side of transformation. So, as HR, we are part of every transformation. And so, how do we keep that our people teams healthy? Would that be mentally and physically? That wellness aspect is really important, right? Because we're in the middle of all of it, even if it's not our team, we're impacted by it. And so how do we like keep people healthy is really been a big one for me.
Like literally healthy. Like ensuring that HR is taking care of themselves.
Exactly, exactly, to taking care of ourselves, yeah, and a lot of times I feel like it gets missed, Emily, like, if to go through a big transformation or if you're doing need to lead, right, as an HR team, some type of reorganization, or it comes with a lot of emotions from others, and so naturally you also have your own emotions, right? Which you are putting to the side to then manage the situation that you're in. But that doesn't mean you're not also don't have feelings and you are receiving the feelings from others. And so I talk to my team a lot about like protecting yourself in that moment, and leading up to those moments. And, for myself, for example, I'll lean in and out of activities in different ways when I try to protect my own energy, right? Because I know that I'm going to need that energy for this other emotional task that's coming. So that's definitely one. And then the second one is I would say as AI comes into the picture, right? And leaders are expecting us to be like most teams, right? More efficient, to be able to do more with less. And it's not clear yet, right, in the HR realm, what exactly are the efficiencies we get from AI? Which one should we use, right? And what's the right stack to put together to make that net new efficiency that you can now repurpose that, to do something else? It's still being formed. And so managing expectations is still a big challenge. Actually, I saw this morning, partner does a webinar for CHROs, and the one this morning was saying that 65% of CHROs are expecting their HR budgets to be cut. And so, but the amount of things they need to do is the same. And so, how do you manage that as the technology is still evolving? Is another really big one.
Yeah, and I also hear the expectation to drive AI adoption, which oftentimes involves tools and
Yep,
costs. That
absolutely.
doesn't fit nicely alongside each other either, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
especially
absolutely.
especially in recruitment, I think I spend a lot of time looking at tools, evaluating tools, and so much of the AI focus is in that recruitment space, right? In terms of yeah, and I know there's a lot of complexity there, but how is Hayes thinking that through, and how are you if you don't mind sharing, like, how are you leveraging AI in that you are recruitment, right? Like, how are you leveraging that to be more efficient in the service that you offer?
Yeah, so we're definitely using it a lot with clients, but the big thing right now internally, we're doing a lot of testing. So we have a big project where we're testing just lots of different tools to see what is going to work best. Me personally, I also do some advising for some of the AI tools, especially on voice interviewing. And I know I saw on your your LinkedIn, you've had experience or yeah, on a blog post or maybe it's an article
It was a
from
Business Insider.
a business. Yeah,
I wrote a LinkedIn post about an experience I had getting interviewed. I told you I spend a lot of
yeah,
time testing these tools as well.
yeah,
I really didn't like my experience, and I just was, pretty just laid it out there. And then Business Insider reached out to me to say, "Would you mind sharing that experience with us?" And then they posted about it, and now
yeah,
I have this reputation as like AI interview hater. But to be honest, there's certain things about it that I
yeah,
can see as pros. Since then, I've
yeah,
talked to a lot of people on the other side of that argument to get a balanced view. But you have to weigh the pros and cons for each
yeah.
situation on, how much are those time savings worth in terms of the, candidate experience. So
Yes, that's big, which is exactly why, in the mode where we are. But yeah, absolutely. On the personal note, definitely, um, I'm looking at some of that too and doing lots.
yeah, as you test it, like, what are some of the things that are top of mind for you? Like, do you have like a mental checklist on sort of maybe where your boundaries are with
Mhm.
things that like you're looking for AI to automate, maybe things that you're not, or like sort of what do you think about when you're testing these tools for particularly in recruitment?
Yeah, so definitely where the experience part, right? Because ultimately we're a service, and so we need to make sure that the experience and whatever it is or however it is we're going to use AI um, works well. And then from an employee standpoint. Also to, I'm thinking through, right, how much and this is gonna sound weird, like training, right, is gonna be required because I say that because what I've seen is that when we're releasing some of the pilots, people are trying different things. And I'm seeing the other day somebody was presenting a presentation to me about something in their area, and I said, "This presentation it doesn't say anything, right? Like it says a lot of designs. It's pretty, but it doesn't actually give any content. And so, how can we make sure then, like, what is the other work?" Right, that will be created by implementing this type of technology, right, into our workforce because ultimately it will need something else, right? Is it training or is it prompt training? How do people know? that is they're using in a way that they can actually get the efficiency.
Right. You may have to hire some agency to actually customize it for you because you didn't realize how complex the back end was. There's always it feels like there's always surprises, right, when you're
Yes.
implementing something, that sort of take away from that time to value. Some tools are really
Right.
easy. Like, you get those edge cases, right, where you plug
Yeah.
something in and you're like, "Whoa."
Yeah. Yes.
But usually, there's a little bit more effort. Yeah, but time to value, that's a great one. Well, wonderful. Have there been any tools that you've tried that, I know you mentioned you're an advisor for some, but have there been any tools that you've tried that really have captured your attention and you've thought, "This is this feels important. This feels like they're onto something."
Um, not yet.
Wow.
So I was like, "This is it, right? They are close by. It's ready."
Right.
So I've seen a lot where I'm like, "This has a lot of potential." But that readiness, Emily, like that's where for me is the big caution. Because we deal with people, right? So ultimately, if it's overly agreeable, if it is right, like it also can create risk, right, from a company governance perspective. Like there's so many things it needs to be ready for, that there's a lot of good potential, but that readiness is still to be seen.
Yeah. Those
What's
edge
your
cases.
favorite one?
I'm biased. I work at All Voices, and I think we're doing something special in the employee relations space,
Mm,
but to be completely honest, like, most of the potential of what we're building, what we're automating with AI is yet to be seen. I think and if you talk to any person who's building an AI native platform right now, like, most of the potential is still ahead of us. There's a lot of couple of really cool use cases that people go, "Oh, that's nice."
mm,
Right? Like, for example, like, in our platform, when you're working on an employee relations case, there's like a catch me up feature. So instead of digging through it, it's like you always know the latest status, like, "Oh, this is
mm,
where we are." That's nice, right? And also, once you put all the information in, it will generate a report from you. That's nice. I mean, it saves you a lot of time. It's nice, right?
right.
But the potential for how much could be automated and how much information could be available to people as they're sort of working through these complex issues, like,
Yeah.
it's still more human than it is automated. Do you know what I mean? So, there's a lot of potential that remains. And I think that's sort of the case for when you think of like my favorite tools too, like for scheduling and recruitment, there's a lot of AI tools that make scheduling easy. It's a minor little thing if you think about it, but it makes a huge impact when you're not, like, can you imagine, like, I picture telling my kids, like, when I was your age, I had to send an email that was like, "Here are the
Email back
14
and
times
forth.
I'm available." Like, I just things like that make me chuckle, but we can automate that now, and it's amazing, but it's a little thing. It's one little use case, right? So I think you're correct in being, I wouldn't say you seem skeptical at all, but more just, like, realistic that the potential is still in the future.
Yes, it's coming quickly, but yeah, I think we have some ways to go.
Yeah. Well, any, sort of parting words of wisdom for folks who are, maybe in a similar situation as you, sort of testing, navigating change, all the things we've talked about today. Do you have any sort of last words of encouragement or advice?
Yeah, it would be take care of yourself. There is a lot coming. We're on the precipice of a just a huge shift, right? It's a shift that will impact the way we work, the way we live, the way we interact. And it's coming quickly. We need to deal with it at work, at home, right? How do you deal with your kids? The teacher, even yesterday at my parent teacher conference, like I'm having to write essays in class and because of AI. And so it's impacting all parts of our life
Mhm.
and the change won't stop. So take care of yourself.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much, Jess. I really enjoyed chatting with you.